So I'm going to call the meeting to order as a preliminary matter. This is Irfan Nasrullah, Select Board Chair. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Amy Ritterbush?
Amy Ritterbush here.
Brendan Tedstone?
Tedstone, affirmative.
Mary Jo Lafreniere?
Mary Jo Lafreniere here.
And Muriel Kramer, I believe, is going to be late or may not come. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Norma Kamalu?
Here.
Elaine Lazarus?
Here.
So anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative if you are here. Clara Behrens?
Here.
Ed Weiderholt?
Here.
Sean McAuliffe? Christine Crosby? Lynn Tokazarik?
Here.
Oh,
Tokarczyk.
Tokarczyk. Keith McCormick? Patrick Lucy? Anthony?
Here. Pat Lucy's here.
Excellent. Anthony Martino?
Here.
Matt Treon? And Harold Nahagian?
Here.
Good evening. This open meeting of the Hopkinton Select Board is being conducted remotely pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. For this meeting, the Select Board is convening by video conference via Zoom, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Additionally, the meeting may also be broadcast by HCAM through one or many of its channels or platforms. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Each vote in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website via the web meeting calendar, unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We're now turning to the first agenda item. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure that accurate meeting minutes are produced. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will invite board members to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in dialogue with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items with public comment, after the members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. The chair will first ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Once the chair has a list of public commentators, I will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. Before we begin our first agenda item, let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item is the public forum. Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak? If so, please use the raise hand feature of Zoom and when called upon, identify yourself by name and address first. I do not see any hands raised. Ben, do you see any?
Nope, there's none.
I don't see any.
Through the chair, no, I do not.
All right, great, thank you. So we'll move to the consent agenda. The board will consider approving the consent agenda consisting of A, Approval of the minutes of the select board meeting on February 1st, 2022. Accepting the following gifts to the Marathon Fund Committee in memory of Frederick L. Murphy. $50 from Joanne M. Jones, $25 from Carolyn Dixon, $50 from Mary E. Harris, $50 from Wendy and Rick Smith, $50 from David and Lee Gagnon, $150 from Robert May, Kirk Bushenfeld, and Robert Annabali, $25 from Heather Kukuzula, sorry, $25 from Mary S. Burke, $200 from Catherine Wallner, $100 from Jerry Cronin family, and $100 from Mary and Russell Ellsworth. C, accepting the following gifts from the accepting the following gifts to the Hopkinton Public Library in the memory of Jay Murray. So that would be $50 from Susan Moore, $50 from Liz and Will Richmond, $25 from Nancy Baker Fowler, $25 from Mary Alice DeSesser, $25 from Carol LeSueur, $25 from Sarah Hunter, $100 from Frank and Barbara Coffran, $36 from Robert and Carol Weinberg, $50 from Anne and Michael Purr, $50 from Mary Ellen Remond Lau, $50 from Rita and David Chad, $100 from Noreen and Edward Martin, $25 from Pat Tosi, Senior, $100 from Judith and William Kendall, $20 from Susan Richard, $50 from Denise Greenwood, $202 from Michael B. Bauman, $30 from Kathleen Northrop, and $100 from the Coffin family. And D, approving the following Marathon Fund requests. Post-prom committee for the senior class at Hopkinton High School. That's going to be $850 for paying for a hypnotist who will be entering the senior proms gathering. Post-prom committee for the senior class at Hopkinton High School. That's going to be $2,200 for the bus. No, actually, I believe the Marathon Committee submitted a request, so because a decision has been made to hold the junior and senior proms at the high school. So the Marathon Committee chair has withdrawn the request for the $2,200 for the transportation since it is no longer required. The hypnotist will be providing entertainment at the high school instead of the other remote locations. So I think the request would be the $850 just for paying for the hypnotist.
$850 for each class, I think.
For each class, yes, thank you. Board members, would anyone like to break out any of the items from the consent agenda? Or
Through the chair, I don't want to break any out, but I would like to just say it should be noted the generosity by all these people that are donating for the charities for the library and the Marathon Fund Committee. Through just it's nice to see, you know, when we did the ambulance fund, there were a few people that were like, when Tommy McIntyre passed, he just brought thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to that through the generous donations of our people, the people from the town and people that used to be in town. And these people that all donated, like I know that Heather Kukazella, I know that she used to be in town, but she lives down in I think the Virginia area. I think Bob knows her. And it's just nice to see people with their generosity come out in droves and just donate, whether it's $1 or $10,000. It's just wonderful to see the camaraderie in the town and everyone coming together.
You're here, absolutely. Thank you for that, Mr. Tedstone. I wholeheartedly agree.
So I think we just need to break out the one item for the 2,200 that was no longer needed.
Right,
for a
right.
separate vote.
Well, since that's no longer needed,
I think that was
Weird.
covered. I think you carved it out during the motion.
I think, yeah, well, I think in the reading of it, I think I carved it out. So I'm going to request a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
So moved.
Second,
Mr. Kamalo, is that motion appropriate?
Yes, and for clarity and for the sake of the public, for the Marathon Fund Committee's request, the board is only acting on the $850 request for each of the classes.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion that's been seconded. Any discussion?
I was just going to
Hearing
add that I'm happy that both classes are getting the same amount. I was a little uncomfortable with the different dollar amounts earlier presented, but it's a moot point now.
Excellent, thank you. So we'll take a roll call vote. Amy Ritterbush,
Ritterbush, yes.
Brenda Tedstone,
Ted Stone, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere. You're muted.
Wouldn't be a meeting without a mute.
And it happens to be me,
Yeah,
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
thank you. And her fondness rule is a yes as well. So that passes. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is a parade permit application. The select board will consider approving a parade permit application for the Hopkinton Little League Opening Day Parade on April 24th, 2022 at 11:30 a.m. The parade will begin at the Town Common and end at 85 Main Street. Would the applicant representatives please describe the application? Claire?
This is Claire Behrens.
you.
I'm Secretary of Hopkinton Little League. The parade would be similar to other parades that the Little League has run in the past. We haven't had them in the last 2 years because of the pandemic. But essentially, we have 60 different teams, baseball and softball, who would gather at the Common prior to the start of the parade. And then the parade would proceed up Main Street to 85 Main. And then all the kids would turn in and go into the baseball field behind 85 Main at Kerrigan Park. And that would be the extent of the parade. We would have police detail for safety, litter control plan, although there's no food or anything planned to be served. And we would also have a police cruiser and a fire engine if available and would participate in the parade. And that's pretty much it.
Excellent. So it's just from the Town Common to 85 Main to Kerrigan Park, right?
Correct.
Okay. Board members, do you have any questions? Amy Ritterbush?
I was just going to highlight that the town just said that the Little League should be aware of the road construction going on around that time, and they should take extra caution. And but it sounded like otherwise they were in good shape.
Okay, so noted.
I'm-
Go ahead. Claire?
I just, through the
Claire,
chair,
you wanted to respond to that?
I'm happy to see it back as a parade since we haven't had it with the pandemic, so. It's a good thing.
Brenda Tedstone.
Thanks. So Claire, thank you very much for stepping up and doing this. This is a tradition that long preceded my days in Little League. It's a wonderful parade. It's something that we all remember as kids doing. It's sad that it was unable to go the last couple of years, but you know, I know Claire, I know her family very well. She's very thorough, and I don't have 1 ounce of reservation. If she's the one presenting this and she's the one that's putting her name on it, then I am 100% in and on board. Again, thank you guys very much for stepping up and continuing such a great tradition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tedson.
Claire, the only thing I have to say on this is similar to what Ms. Ritterbush had mentioned. We're going to be in the midst of the downtown corridor construction at the time. Marathon Way is going to be used as a staging area. So the town common could very well be a mess at that time. Obviously, we're doing our best to make sure it's not, but I guess I just encourage you to stay in contact with Dave and you know, folks at Town Hall to make sure you can coordinate that appropriately.
Okay, yeah, it is one week after the marathon, so we will keep an eye on the status of the common road construction and adjust accordingly.
And through the chair, you know, it's a Sunday, correct?
That's right.
Yeah, they're not going to be working on a Sunday, and they have to leave the road passable. And the parade participants are finely tuned athletes. I'm sure that they will be able to step over a rock or something like that. It's more fun. I tell you, it's more fun for the spectators. It's cute to see the kids walk by with their gloves on and things like that. I'm not concerned at all about the, you know, they'll congregate at some portion of the common, then they wind up walking down one of the crossways and then getting on Main Street from there. So there's not, if there's an excavator or dozer or materials on Marathon Way or on Cookie's Corner, it won't impede them at all. They don't need the whole, it's not the marathon. It'll be significantly on a smaller scale. So it'll be fine.
I'm confident it will be too. And then the only other thing I wanted to note is obviously COVID, subject to anything that goes crazy with COVID again. Stay in touch with Sean McAuliffe and as far as the planning goes, but as far as things look right now, I think it looks great. So
I would make a motion if you want.
Please.
So I would make a motion to approve the parade permit for the Happening Little League for
I'll second.
April 24th. Subject to the
second.
Mass Department of Health COVID guidance and to keeping in touch with Town Hall regarding inspection.
Second.
So for clarity, that was, you approved it with the conditions of what the Mass DPH is putting in if they put any, the DPH Mass Department of Public Health put stipulations in, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. And it was seconded.
And it was seconded. So we have a motion been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Amy Ritterbush,
Amy Ritterbush, yes.
Brendan Tedstone,
Ted Stone, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere,
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
and Urfanis Rule is a yes as well. Good luck, Claire. I know you're
Thanks,
gonna
Claire.
knock it out of the park.
Claire,
you
and
so
if there's anything that the Little League needs, please either reach out to Mr. Kamalo or Mr. Nasrullah or myself or any of us.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
I think the kids, this would be great for the kids. They need a break.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, so moving on, we have another parade permit application. Select Board will consider approving a parade permit for the Jimmy Fund Walk to be held on October 2nd, 2022. The walk will start at the Boston Marathon start line and head east into Ashland on Route 135. Would the applicant representative please describe the application? Ed, you here?
Yes. So this is Ed Wiederhold from Dimsey Sports, and we likewise are very excited to be able to, after 2 years, come back live again to do the Boston Marathon Jimmy Fund Walk. It's going to be exactly like what we have done in past years, or at least the past couple years that we've had it live. We'll have registration take place at the middle school using the cafeteria in the gymnasium. And then the start line, again, will be the Boston Marathon start line. We'll shuttle people from the registration area to the start line, and people coming from Boston that are already registered will be dropped by bus at the start line and just proceed from there. It is a rolling start, so it's not, we don't close any roads at any time. As people show up and they're ready to go, they can proceed down the course. I'll once again work very closely with Deputy Chief Jay Porter as far as making sure that everything's in place for safety, et cetera, and the police details that we have, that we'll get those all in place. Numbers wise, we're expecting 2,300, which is what we've had in the past. I don't expect it to be any more than that. If anything, it might be less because it's been very successful to have the virtual event the last couple of years, but it definitely won't be any more than the 2,300 people.
Excellent. Board members, any questions, comments? Amy?
The comments from the town staff sounded good, and the plan to do the shuttles sounds like that'll avoid the problems with the downtown construction. So I think that sounds good. Just be aware that we are doing construction.
Yes. And likewise, anything with COVID that comes up, et cetera, we'll work with the town and make sure we put everything in place.
Of course. Brendan Tedson.
Great parade historically. They've done a great job, and it's for a great cause. So no comments.
Thank you.
Okay. Mary Jo Lafreniere?
I've done Jimmy Fund volunteering for the Jimmy Fund Walk a number of years, and it's just a great event, and it's very quiet actually, and they make a lot of money for the Jimmy Fund, and it's really worth it. So I'm all for it.
Sounds good. And I know the Jimmy Fund is a top-notch organization, and you've done it before. You know what you're doing. I'm confident you're going to do it, pull it off again.
Thank you.
So I'm going to request a motion to approve the parade permit for the Jimmy Fund Walk on October 2nd, 2022, subject to the Mass Department of Public Health COVID-19 guidance.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Amy Ritterbush,
Ritterbush, yes.
Brendan Tedstone,
Tedstone, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere,
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
and Irfan Nasrullah is also a yes. Congratulations. We look forward to it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I did get an email from Matt Clark saying that the HCAM is running the meeting and they are live,
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
and they have been.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So next item on our agenda is the COVID-19 update. Sean McAuliffe, our health director, will provide the board with an update on the town's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. McAuliffe.
Through the chair, thank you for inviting me. So as I've repeated in the recent past, we continue to observe improvement in the town of Hopkinton. This week, several residents reached out to the department about the types of weekly metrics that we report on and the status of the town's COVID-19 page. The Mass DPH does not provide the department access to municipal hospitalization data unless a resident communicates their illness to the town's EMTs and paramedics. We don't track COVID-related ambulance transportation. As for the town's COVID-19 hub, we have not updated our local or DPH metrics because absent the results from home tests, they significantly underreport our true metrics. I continue to discuss this issue with IT, and we'll be bringing it up at our next EMG meeting. And then we'll post where we're going to go from there. As a segue, the DPH reports the following metrics for Hopkinton. The data does not include any home testing results. So the DPH reports that we've had 91 cases during the month of February. We're averaging 6 cases a day. That's an improvement over the last 2 weeks of January, where we were averaging 7 to 8 cases per day. Let's see, our 14-day positivity rates at 10.35. Our 14-day incidence per 100,000 is at 71.9. 40% of the cases that we saw this month, or that we've seen this month, have been in children under the age of 19. So, much of what we've seen over the last couple months is the same. It's just we're seeing less of it. So we know we've got an opportunity in the school age kids, our metrics are getting better. To be responsive, my public health nurses and I, we did reach out to a variety of different sources this week to try to see or assess whether or not we've had any, residents transported. And what we did learn was that 6 senior residents were reported, were transported to hospital with respiratory distress from Fairview Estates over the last 2 weeks of January. We've spoken to the residents. They required nebulizer treatments or antibody treatments to mitigate the symptoms they were experiencing. And our understanding is that they've either returned back to Fairview or they have been relocated to other facilities. Other than that, we haven't had really any reported hospitalizations or transportation, over the last 2 weeks. So we're doing better than January again. On February, or actually on the 7th of this month, the Washington School of Medicine in St. Louis released an analysis of federal health data that people who have had COVID-19 are at a 4% increased risk of developing a cardiovascular complication within the first month to a year after infection. We're bringing this up because as we move towards this concept of personal responsibility, as we're transitioning out of the pandemic to managing the risk of COVID in the home, we want people that have had COVID to have conversations with their primary care physician. We want parents to have conversations with their pediatricians to discuss whether or not the pediatrician feels that their children might be at risk. Because this is where we're going. We're going to be talking to our physicians. I've got the flu. I'm feeling this and this, and we want to establish those those connections with our physicians, so that again, as we move out of the pandemic and into this just being another illness that we're managing, we want to have those relationships set in place. As for the ongoing restrictions in the municipal setting, our recommendation to the leadership in EMG is that we remove the restrictions when our cases per 100,000 and percent positivity drop into the CDC's low risk rating. So what does that mean? So for cases per 100,000, that involves our case numerator to be below 10. Right now we're at 71.9. As for our percent positivity, we want that to be below 5, and we're at 10.35. We are moving in the right direction. I'm hopeful and optimistic that we'll be there at or before the 28th. But we know that these metrics that the DPH are providing, they don't include home tests. So they're actually underreporting or underrepresenting what our risk is. But because we are moving in the right direction, because we are highly vaccinated, and because we know that the risk of hospitalization and negative health outcomes is low, we're positive and optimistic that we're going to be there shortly. And if we're close by the end of February, and we're right at that moderate risk level, then that's something that the AMG, the town leadership, and my department and my board can discuss. Moving to our vaccination rates, they continue to improve. What we're going to be focused on is increasing the booster rates in our 12 to 15-year-olds. That's at 42%. Our 20 to 29-year-olds, That's at 49%. I expect that rating to bump up because colleges are now starting to require their students to get boosted in order to remain in school. So I think that will increase without us really doing much. And we're just looking at our 50 to 64-year-olds. We're at a rate of 68%, would prefer to be or to have the population at a percentage of 80% or above. And again, as we continue to work on our vaccination, as we're educating the public, working with the public to make sure that we have policies and procedures in place as we continue to evolve, we think we're going to be in a good place. As I indicated last week, we've got $68,700 in grant funding to work towards, providing the clinics for boosters, for purchasing PPE, test kits. We'll be working on that as the money or as the checks come in. And we were actually planning on our 6-month to 4-year-old vaccination clinics. But today we learned that they are revisiting the reports, or the CDC and the FDA are reviewing all of the data that they had got in. And what we're hearing is that they're going to have an update on when they're going to permit either Pfizer or Moderna to proceed at the end of the month or at the end of March. So we'll be, staying on top of this and updating the residents, throughout this month and March. And, we have the funding in place. We have the staffing in place, and we're ready when that time comes. Otherwise, we're working with all the parade applicants, all of the other groups that are looking to get, going this spring. And, we're hopeful and optimistic that we will have a normal, spring and summer. That's it.
Thank you. I think it's kind of important to note that the reason that, we are moving in this direction, well, one of the reasons that we're moving in this direction is because the hospitalizations or the illness seems to be less severe
Right.
amongst the vaccinated. So I think it's an important point to kind of get out there.
Yeah, and it's really about operations, because we still have to isolate if we get sick. So it's, if we lose the first grade teachers, if we lose a shift of either, in either of our public safety departments, it's, we know that we're in good shape, but we still need to remain diligent.
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
think, and that's why we have the EMG. That's why we continue to meet. So I'm confident that, again, we'll be in a good place, and at the end of the month, we'll be lifting restrictions.
Excellent. Board members, any questions?
I just wanted to thank Sean for all this detail. I really appreciate it, and that you're watching all the numbers and everything closely.
No,
I expressed this last time, but I'll just say it again, that we've had like a mini surge after every school vacation week. So it makes me nervous, the idea of lifting the restriction the day after vacation. But if we could wait like a week, assuming the numbers are in a good order, I think everybody would have time to get tested after they got home from vacation, and would be in a much better place. So I'm looking forward to a very nice spring without so many restrictions.
Yeah, no, and we're in touch. I'm in touch with the superintendent almost every other day. And we're listening to the residents when they have, questions, advice, when they have data that they want us to look at. I'm writing to the head epidemiologist or, the different statisticians that they have to see what's out there. And the hospital data that they provided is at best 6 months old. So it's really not useful.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sean. Really
Welcome.
appreciate it. I'm sure the public appreciates hearing all the numbers and where we're headed.
We're just gonna stay focused.
Stay focused, absolutely. It's hard. I mean, I think we're all experiencing the fatigue, but
Yeah.
we'll
I
stay
get
on.
it.
Awesome.
I mean-
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it.
Welcome. All right, take care. All right, thank you.
Thank you. So the next agenda item is going to be a public hearing, and I think we're a little bit early for the public hearing.
Through the chair, I don't know if we are, it's continued, so we don't have to open it. So it's an open hearing already. It's been open.
Is Mr. Tedstone correct, Elaine? And Norman?
Yes, he's correct.
All right, fantastic. In which case, then we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is a continued public hearing. It's a petition for underground conduit on Wilson Street by Eversource Energy. I call the public hearing to order. This hearing is continued from January 11th, where the board opened the public hearing and continued it to this date without any discussion on the matter. Would a representative of the applicant please describe the request? Christine Crosby?
Yes, this is Christine Cosby from Eversource. And yes, we are requesting a grant of location for approximately 80 feet of conduit at existing pole 59 over 18. And the purpose of this conduit would be to provide service for the new solar array located at 17 Wilson Street.
Okay. Are any of the poles coming down, or if you have the conduit, can you eliminate any of the poles?
No, the conduit will be installed coming off of an existing pole, and there will be no poles removed. It's a conduit underground installation only.
Okay. Board members, do we have any questions? Ms. Ritterbush?
I was just going to note that in the comments, the principal planner noted that the Wilson Street is a scenic road, so that there cannot be any alteration of the stone walls or cutting of trees if that would be necessary for this, without permission from the planning board. But I do think the planning board has fully vetted this project, and as long as it's following their specifications, that sounds fine.
Christine, is that correct? You have been working with the planning board?
I'm sorry, excuse me?
Have you been working with the planning board? Because Wilson Street is a scenic road. And it's.
No, I haven't been working with the planning board, no.
Sorry, I meant the person installing the solar farm was working with the planning board.
Okay. Mr. Tedstone.
So that scenic road is an issue that I need to know for sure that they've got, before we authorize these guys to do what they're doing, I need to know that they've done their legwork with the planning board to make sure that they're compliant with our rules and regulations pertaining to scenic roads. Can we be 100% sure before I cast the vote as yes or no? I need to know 100% if they've dotted all their I's and crossed all their T's before they came to us. Elaine or Norman, can you let me know with clarity that this has been taken care of?
Through the chair, they would only need planning board approval if they were going to remove trees or stone wall. And I think the driveway for this location is already in. And I think the conduit comes out of the driveway and goes across the street to the pole.
Okay, so there would be no disruption, no cutting of trees, and no stone walls being removed?
I think that's already occurred and that's been approved.
Okay, and they said that there would be no removal of poles. Will there be additions of pole? There's no, you're not adding any poles to this? You're not adding a pole to the facility where the conduit comes down?
No, it's strictly underground. In the public way, right into the private property with the solar arrays. Everything's underground.
You all set, Mr. Tetsu?
Yeah, all set. Yep.
All right. Mary Jo Lafreniere.
Well, he answered my question. I hate double polls and and I might have even voted no if there was one, but it's all underground and it's just crossing the road. And it's going through the property. It's just a underground road crossing, right?
Yes.
Okay,
So from my perspective, Christine, I think you may have gathered by now that we're against all these polls. And you're not adding any, so that's a good thing. But is there any way that, so at least the capacity of this conduit could be large enough that it could, that for the future, we can remove some of these poles?
Well, this conduit installation is strictly to provide service to the solar array. The poles that are out there are now currently overhead line poles to provide the distribution of electricity along the public way. So we could not remove any of the poles out there.
All right. So basically what we're saying is there's the only wires going through that conduit are just coming from the solar farm to the Eversource side, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Since this is a public meeting, I'm going to invite the public. Board members, are we all set here?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes. Mr. Quanlo.
Yeah, through the chair. Christine, may you describe to the board any work that might be done on existing poles?
The only work that will be done will be to install the cables from above the pole down along the pole into a standpipe underground to the property of the solar.
Thank you.
Who does this solar array benefit? Where does the power go?
Well, the customer is, hang on here, hold on, please. A grasshopper is the name of the Salmi Ali grasshopper with the solar array company.
Okay. So I guess I'm not going to have you explain the process to me in front of everybody. I just find it, so we've had you're an employee of Eversource, correct?
Yes.
So I find it, I'm on year 6 of being on the board of selectmen, select board. And we have tirelessly asked your company to fix the double poles in town. You fix like 5 or 6, which is good. I find it amazing that you guys can keep going through with all this new construction and everything else that you're doing, but you can't spring a couple of crews together to do something that we've asked you to do for, I know 6 years. I don't know if it's been going on before 6 years, but the double poles in this town are a massive eyesore. I would imagine at some point they may become some type of a safety hazard. And I can't vote for any project that you guys are going through when you guys can't take care of a simple, these double poles with the amount of people and the equipment that your company has, that you can't go through our town and take care of these eyesores and potential safety hazards. So it bothers me that you guys come up and I know it's not you, you're not the one that decides where your workforce goes, but it bothers me very deeply that you guys keep coming up and asking us for everything. And we've asked you for one thing, and it's to take care of the double poles, and you haven't done it. So I can't think of any project that you would bring forth to the board with me on it that I would ever vote for until these double polls are taken care of. But that's just me kind of speaking.
Well, I think Mr. Tedstone speaks for a lot of people in town, in that these double poles are something that we've been asking to be fixed. In your favor, in this situation, I think we're looking at a solar farm that is going to be providing electricity. It's clean, renewable energy going to Eversource, so you can, meet your requirements of renewable energy. So I guess I'd be in favor of that, but I do echo Mr. Tedstone's concerns about the double poles. And if you could bring this to your superiors, I think it would be, we would greatly appreciate it. We're not going to stop asking you to fix it. This is an eyesore and it is a safety hazard. And on my way home, I'm always kind of worried about a couple double poles I see that look like they're about to fall over. So that's just me speaking.
Through
Go
the
ahead,
chair.
Mary Jo.
The last time we discussed this at a meeting with someone from Eversource was there, and we talked about the double poles. And the 2 days later, the very first pole in the center of town on Cedar Street was doubled.
Mhm.
I mean, this was immediately after we asked it not to be done. It was done, and it was done on the very first pole next to the pharmacy on Cedar Street. And I was shocked. I mean, I went by and all of a sudden there's a double pole there. And I hate it. And most of the people in town do too. So we're asking you again, do something.
So I don't think that, I think that Mary Jo is indicative of how the company works, where they'll say, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to take care of it. This is the only bite of the apple that we have. We know that they go through, alternative means to get things done. And, maybe if we vote no on this, maybe they will be able to spring a crew in the amount of time that they would do to do the underground. Maybe they can replace 5 or 6 double poles and then come to us again. And I don't know, it's just, I mean, look at when you drive down Cedar Street, I almost want to get a protractor out and see what the angle is of the double poles that they put in. Just there's 5 double poles in a row that some are probably at a 15 or 20 degree angle. And if they fall, they're going to fall into the woods, but it's ugly and it's just rinky dink, shoddy workmanship that they do. And it's, like I said, I understand that there's the clean energy contingent of the whole thing, but let's you guys vote how you want. I can never vote in favor for anything that these guys do when we ask them the most simple thing to do, and they don't get it done. So
Through the chair. I believe this solar project, we went through this when I was on the planning board, and it's a private company doing this. So by delaying the solar panel getting hooked up, we're harming the private company and not Eversource. So it's been fully permitted by the planning board. So I would be hesitant to penalize the private developer. As much as I hate to see trees cut down for solar, it was allowed and it was approved. But so anyway, I'd be hesitant to penalize the private company.
You just stole my wind, Amy, because I was about to say the same thing. That this is really to benefit the solar farm, not really to benefit Eversource. So I think would be, holding the wrong party hostage by denying this.
I don't think Grasshopper is a local company.
But a private company that has nothing to do with the polls, nonetheless.
Yeah.
So since this is a public hearing, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
I was just gonna say the same thing. I'm not gonna belabor my point. Go ahead and move on.
All right. So since this is a public hearing, I'm going to open this up to the public. If any members of the public would like to speak on this, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom. And looking through, I see one attendee with his hand up. Tom Shelby, you're up. Can we liven him up, Ben?
Hey, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Yes.
My name is Tom Shambo. I live at 15 Wilson Street. Been in town for 30 years. I just wanted to get a clarification on this because it is a scenic road. We were very much in favor of the power going under the road as opposed to having more telephone poles installed. But I want to make sure that there's not going to be any connectivity. They're not going to be able to turn on the electricity until they get a certificate of occupancy. And that goes through, I believe, the planning board. Because there are some issues right now that still haven't been fully resolved with the solar construction and particularly the shielding of the panels and so forth. And I just want to make sure that this, if you vote positive on this, which, you know, in time we hope you do, and the electricity goes underground, but that doesn't mean automatically that it gets connected and they start generating electricity for Eversource until some other, you know, approval or what have you is being done.
Thank you. Elaine, I think what Tom is saying is correct, that there would be other approvals that need, you know, the final approval before they could electrify it, right?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with all of the planning board's conditions, but if there are some that still need to be satisfied, they would have to be satisfied. You could attach conditions to your vote as well.
Okay. And kind of the final approval that electrifies it, that would come from the building department?
I believe they do have to get electrical permit at least.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any other members of the public? I do not see anyone else with the hand raised. So let's see, request a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion been seconded. Any discussion? Take a roll call vote on that. Amy Ritterbush,
Ritterbush, yes.
Brenda Tedstone,
Ted Stone, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere,
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
and Irfan Nasrullah is a yes. Muriel Kramer, I don't believe is here. All right, so now to the substance of this. Does anybody want to make a motion for or against this?
So I would make a motion to approve the petition to construct a solar conduit under Wilson Street to provide electrical service to the solar farm at 17 Wilson Street, with the condition that all the site plan, the conditions set by the planning board have been satisfied, and all electrical and other town permits have been fulfilled.
Okay. Anyone want to second that?
Second that, yep.
Okay. So we have a motion that's been seconded. Do we have any discussion on that? Hearing none. Take a roll call vote. Amy Ritterbush,
Ritterbush, yes.
Brenda Tedstone,
Ted Stone, no.
Mary Jo Lafreniere,
If it was poles, I'd say no, but I like this underground, so I'll say yes.
and Irfan Nasrullah is a yes. But I do want to say that I agree with the reasoning of Mr. Tedstone. I just think that we're punishing the wrong party.
Yeah. Just my thought is that sometimes we only have one bite at the apple, and these guys, this Eversource truly could care less about our town. They just care about their bottom line.
Christine, I hope
Yes.
you've heard our concerns about
Yes,
Eversource.
Yes, I have.
And if you could do whatever you can, raise this to management level so that these issues can be resolved, because we are tired of it. We've been dealing with it. You heard Mr. Tedstone say he's been dealing with this for 6 years. You heard Ms. Lafreniere said that we said, the day after we said we wanted to get these things cleaned up, you added another double pole downtown. So this stuff matters to us as a town and as a community. So we really take this to the higher ups, and I think the next time around, you may not get your approvals.
I
No,
understand completely.
Yeah, they will, because I'll be off the board by then, and I'll bet you a Fresca at some point that we will approve 5 more jobs for theirs before they do 1 more double pole. they could care less about us. Lip service.
I agree.
All right, Christine,
Yes.
we approved it, but this is something that really bothers the town. And we'd really like to see these things addressed.
I understand. I will take it to a higher level and
And
have
actually,
somebody reach out.
You know what else? A report back would be fabulous. Can you do that for
Yes,
us?
Yes, I will do that. I'll take it to a higher level and have somebody report back to you.
All right. Thank you very much. All right.
I'd like you guys to reflect back on this moment the next time a permit comes up and the next time somebody says that they will take it up. Because we all know, the four of us know, plus the other two people that are here, we all know it's not going to happen. But good luck. Have fun.
I can't disagree with you, Brendan.
We'll keep trying, that's all.
Yeah.
We've got to keep
Yep.
trying.
It's funny. It's amazing how many people will say, we'll take it up to the next level, or yes, we'll do that. And, by the time May comes, I bet we're plus, at least on the positive side, for more double polls to the negative.
I sure hope not. And
Yeah.
I sure hope that Christine can do something about this. All right, moving on. Next agenda item is the Lichen Bioscience Holdings Tax Increment Financing Agreement, or TIF. The board will consider a draft tax increment financing agreement between the town and Lichen Bioscience and Southfield Properties. The property at 103, 105, 107, and 109 South Street. Mr. Kamalo.
Yeah, through the chair. I'll preface my comments by referring to the last agenda item. At staff level, we appreciate the comments that the board shared tonight regarding the double polls in town and the lack of action on Eversource part. And then with regard to the Lichen Bioscience Holdings Tax Increment Finance Agreement, at your last meeting, last Tuesday, we did share with you a draft tax increment financing agreement for your review. By way of introducing the topic, the parties to the agreement are Lichen Bioscience, Southfield Properties, and the town. Tax increment financing is a tool that the town has considered previously in other instances. It is an agreement, the tax increment financing agreement is negotiated between the hosting town and the proposing entity. And in this case, it's Lichen Bioscience and Southfield Properties. Process. We now have a draft agreement in the hands of the board. The board can review it tonight, ask any questions, and take any appropriate action that may be necessary. For the public's benefit, the board has already placed a placeholder article on the town meeting warrant should this proceed to town meeting, which is the next step of approval. If the board is inclined to support the TIF, it then moves to town meeting, and if town meeting agrees, the process then moves to the state level. So at this point, through the chair, I invite the board to ask any questions it may have on the draft agreement. We also have representatives from Lichen to answer any questions that may be directed to the company.
Thank you, Mr. Kamalo. I'll save my comments for last. Amy Ritterbush, any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify for the public, I think we heard most of this last time, but that Lichen is up to date on all of their agreements from the previous TIF that we voted a few years ago. Is that correct?
Correct. And in fact, with the chair's permission, it may be helpful for Lichen just to recount the work that has been done on the side, how many jobs have been created.
Sure, absolutely. Someone from Lichen like to take it away?
Sure. So this is Patrick Lucy, President and CEO of Lichen. So we've been on the site for a couple of years. Part of the commitments that were made were adding full-time permanent jobs. We are ahead of schedule. I think Lynn probably has the actual numbers, but we are well ahead of schedule in terms of the hiring. We're up to approximately 72 or 73 full-time employees on the site. And also the salary ranges are in excess of what was originally agreed to. We did have a little bit of an interruption with our work with the public schools because of COVID, but we fully intend to engage and do the internship program with the high school. We have had other interns at the site from colleges in the area, and very successful internship programs in the area. We've been extremely active philanthropically, working with Project Just Because and several other nonprofits in town. And so in the business is doing extremely well. So we're currently adding more capacity right now. So we're continuing the investment in the current infrastructure by investing several $1 million right now to double our manufacturing capacity, which was certainly well beyond the original projected investment.
Thank you.
If I may to also add to that, one point also is that the company in the original TIF request had proposed a $12 million investment, and to date, they have spent approximately $25 million compared to the $12 million. So, and that's to add to all of the jobs. They are in compliance. So that's the good news on the 2019 TIF. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
Just
you.
a couple more clarifying questions, just for the public. I believe, and I think the town manager could probably verify that we are protected. Should they fail to meet some of the agreements in the future, the town is protected under state law if they don't meet the agreement of the TIF. And the whole town will get to vote on this at town meeting in May. It's not a done deal tonight, correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me just clarify, the first TIF we had is moving forward and it's doing fine from what I understand, what you're saying. And this one, is it going to be two separate ones? This isn't going to extend the first one, is it?
That's correct. This would just be a second TIF, a self-standing
Second TIF. Okay, okay.
Mr. Tedstone.
Yeah, so Mr. Rotuno and Mr. Lucy, I assume that you guys were on for our last agenda item. So for the massive amounts of disappointment that I have with Eversource, I'm glad that you guys were after them, because you guys have really been a beacon of light in our community. You've done everything that you said that you were going to do. Your philanthropic endeavors with Project Just Because, your goal to engage our local schools in co-op type opportunity, and just expanding into the town. I wish that you could put a seminar on to the last person that came before us, but we know that that's it doesn't matter because they wouldn't listen to you. So from my perspective, I always give people the benefit of the doubt, and until they prove me wrong, I'm always going to be in their corner. You guys have been awesome, absolutely awesome, kind of following in the footsteps of what EMC was when they first started too. I wholeheartedly support anything that you guys put before us, and thank you very much for, and Mr. Kamalo, thank you very much for putting these guys on after Eversource, because it's like a round of golf. You can shoot a horrible round of golf, but if your last shot's nice, then you leave happy. I'm happy. So thank you very much for your placement of these guys on the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Tedstone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Kamalo, a question for you. You said that we have a chance to just review and ask questions. We've had this now for a week. Was the idea for us to just continue to digest this, or to act on it tonight?
The board can act on it tonight, or if the board believes there are any points that require further review and discussion, the board can continue its review to its next meeting. However, again, the board can act tonight or continue the conversation to a next future meeting.
So
Okay,
it sounds
thank
like
you.
we can recommend this to town meeting or continue discussion if we don't think we're ready to recommend it. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
And one other thing I wanted to just kind of make clear about this TIF agreement is that the town is being guaranteed money, tax money based on the vacant land, correct?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Yeah. And that is guaranteed according to the schedule that's shown in the TIF agreement that was in our packet, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, does any of the board members care to make a motion on this one? Or do we want to continue review?
I'd like to make a motion to approve this and move it to town meeting.
Second.
All right, so I think we have some specific language that needs to be in the motion. So I'm going to request a motion to recommend to town meeting the tax increment financing agreement for real estate and personal property tax exemptions in accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 40, between the town of Hopkinton and Lichen Bioscience Holdings, LLC, and Southfield Properties 3, LLC, and to approve the submission to the EDIP local incentive only application to the Massachusetts Economic Assistance Coordinating Council in accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 23A, Sections 3A and 3C.
I believe that is exactly what my motion said, Mr. Chair. So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion that's been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, take a roll call vote. Amy Ritterbush,
Amy Roderbush, yes.
Brendan Tedstone,
Headstone, enthusiastically, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere,
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
and her fondness rule is a yes. You guys have been great neighbors. You came into town and invested a significant amount, and sounds like you're here to stay. So I think we're all really happy about that. So thank you.
Thank you for the support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. The next item on our agenda is the 2022 annual town meeting and the fiscal year 23 budget discussion. The board will review the language of some of its own articles, and a list with the language was included in the packet. We'll go through them one at a time for questions and comments.
Through the chair,
Yep.
I have a kind of an emergency that's come up at work, so I'm going to have to jump off, but I note that you guys do still have a quorum if I jump off. I will get back on. I don't imagine it'll be more than 25 minutes.
Okay,
Thank
sounds
you.
good. Go save some lives. So I guess what I'd like to do, I'll just go through the list, and if anyone has anything to say, we can speak up. So the first item would be the general bylaw amendments, basically amending our bylaws so we're gender neutral. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that? No.
No.
All right, nor do I. Accepting an easement at 2 Oakhurst Road.
I think that was for a bus stop, so no.
Or bus stop. Mr. Marlowe, can you clarify that? That's the bus stop at Legacy?
Correct.
All right.
No, Oakhurst,
It's Oakhurst Road.
Right, like Maspmac.
the other side of town.
Oh, okay. So this is for a bus stop over there. Okay.
Yeah.
So no questions, comments, discussion on that? Hearing none. Okay, next one would be accepting a gift of land at Fitch Avenue.
No.
No comments. Mr. Marlowe, what is that one for?
I'll defer to Elaine, please, on this one.
It's a piece of property that's coming to the town in the Elmwood Farms subdivision, and it's adjacent to EMC Park and Marathon School.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, and by way of addition, this was negotiated with the developer as part of a legal settlement agreed to between the town and the developer. The discussion back then was that the land will be used specifically for trail purposes.
Okay. So this is specifically for the Upper Charles Trail
Or any other trail.
or any other trail? Okay. Fantastic. The next item would be establishing a revolving fund for shared housing services office. Any thoughts on that?
I think that was what John Gelsich presented to us in the fall. So that seems like a good idea. to me.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right. Number 5, accepting town reports.
No comments.
No comments?
That's good, yeah.
Or I don't have any either. Set the salary of elected officials.
The Personnel Committee, I assume, will bring us a recommendation on that.
Yeah. So we're not, so just for clarification, right now, the board is looking at these articles. These will ultimately be brought to town meeting to be voted on by the town, right? So. So the next item would be Chapter 90 highway funds. Elaine, can you give a little explanation as to what the highway funds are?
I think Norman can give a better
I can,
explanation.
yes, I
Norman?
can.
Norman away.
Chair, yeah. This is the share of roadway improvement funding received from the state. It comes to Hopkinton as part of the state's disbursements of funds that can be applied to maintaining and improving roadways in local communities. It appears on the town meeting warrant, not because this is a required legal step, but rather because the town has chosen to be transparent. It affords us the opportunity to let the public know how much is coming from the state to support our road network in terms of repairs and maintenance.
Excellent, thank you. I think it's important for the public to hear that. The last thing for tonight would be the trustees of the school fund.
I guess I do know that this is something that's on the warrant periodically. This is how we appoint the trustees of the school fund. But I would be curious to know what the process is. Do we need to solicit people that would be interested in being appointed so that we can recommend them? Or how does that work?
I think based on past practice, we are relying on our colleagues from the school department to market the need for members on this trust fund committee. It's a very interesting law. It's a law that came into being very early in the days of this community. And it's been exciting to be part of the process that tries to implement it in the modern day context. So it's very scanty in terms of detail regarding process, but I think the town has established clear practices as to how it gets the members onto the committee.
So if anyone at home is listening tonight and they might be interested in serving on this committee, they should contact the school department. Is that right? Or us?
Yeah, the school department or the school committee.
Okay, and then.
Or the town
label-
clerk's office.
Okay, and so then we'll get a good list of people who might like to do that.
Fabulous.
Now-
Mary Jo, do you have any of
Yes,
that?
please, through the chair. These are all of the board-sponsored non-recurring articles. Now, there are a lot more. There are like 29 of them. And all the rest of them are sponsored by you, Mr. Camello?
Good question. Good question, Mary Jo. You may recall at the last select board meeting, we offered the board that the board can review the entire list. I think it's about 27, 28.
29.
Yeah, 29,
two
yes,
are-
29. Yes,
two are
We took
gone,
off
so,
one, the
yeah.
excise tax on boats. We took one off,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, so I think it's 27. The board can review these over 3 meetings. So this is the first batch. At your next meeting, we'll come with another list of 8 or 9 articles. And then in your third meeting, we'll do the same.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay,
this
I
is-
I just noticed that these are all sponsored by the board and that most of the other ones are sponsored by you. So I was thinking maybe we didn't have to do it, but yeah, I would like to. Thank you.
Excellent.
So we're coming back next week.
We'll be
Oh, yeah,
back.
next
Well,
week.
2 weeks, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Each week, yeah.
You get a
All
week
right.
off. Yeah.
So that brings us to the town manager's report.
Oh, I think we can bring up capital projects at this time too. Is that right?
I have a quick update on the budget.
So I don't mean to interrupt. Ms. Roderbush, you were asking about capital projects?
It says we can also consider any budget or capital project briefings. Or
Is that going to be brought up we're going to be doing that in a future meeting? Mr. Kwame,
Future
or-
meetings, yes. Yes.
Okay.
However, if there's any capital article of interest to the board, give us the heads up now or send us an email during the week.
Okay, so I would like to give a heads up now then, I guess. I didn't catch this at the last meeting, but with the changes we had to make due to the Eversource appeal, it sounds like the solar panel article for the schools has changed. And that's going to be very confusing to the public. There's pros and cons of leasing solar panels versus purchasing. And I just want to make sure that there'll be a clear presentation about which way we're going to go in the pros and cons. If you purchase, it's a larger upfront cost, but then you make more money in the long run. But if you lease, it's probably no expense at the outset, but you make less money in the long run. So I just want to make sure that's all clear for the public.
So I think when we get to that is in the future meeting,
Yep, that's fine.
we'll talk about that. And I think it's a good heads up because I think that discussion is something that it's a lot of money up front. And what are the real savings? We need to know those numbers when we present them to the public.
Yep.
Back to you, Mr. Kamalo, town manager report.
Okay, very quickly, and Ben, for the sake of the public at home, feel free to power up the PowerPoint. Very briefly, as you know, last Tuesday, I presented a proposed budget that had addressed $1 million of the $1.5 million in adjustments that were necessitated by Eversource's latest round of tax appeals. I am happy to report that by working collaboratively with our partners in the Hopkinton Public Schools, we seem to be very close to a solution for covering the final $500,000 needed. But this matter is still under deliberation by the school committee. I will provide you with a detailed explanation at your next meeting after the school committee completes its work. But tonight, again, I'm very pleased to report good progress towards some solution or a final solution under our one town, one solution approach. And then secondly, the Appropriations Committee, I am hearing through Tim and Ben that they're already working on scheduling their hearings and deliberations to review the budget as soon as it is shifted from the select board to the Appropriations Committee. Even as preliminary work is being done on the draft Appropriations Committee by the finance team, we are using that information also to feed into the process that we are now engaged in with the select board. Other progress includes the preparations that we're making to organize the March 1st public listening session on the budget that was agreed to at the last select board meeting. We just completed putting together the public notice. It will go out first thing tomorrow morning It will point directly to where all the budget information is listed. We are working on additional presentations and summary PowerPoint presentations that will go along with some of the detailed information that we've already shared with the board. Again, we're doing this in response to some of the feedback that we had from the board. In addition, we're going through the glossary to make sure that the language that is used is simple, straightforward, easy to understand. And obviously, yes, we're discussing finance. There are going to be some terms that we can't find simpler terms for, but we're taking every necessary step to make sure that the information that we post online for the public to review ahead of the listening session is information that will enable them to ask us good questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's important for the whole presentation. And I think the point was made, and I'm glad you took it to heart, but the point being that it's a lot. It's an awful lot, and trying to understand it can be difficult. So I certainly appreciate that. Mary Jo or Amy, any questions, comments?
No, I think that all sounds good. I'm looking forward to the meeting on this first.
Me too.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kamalo.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, again, in the meantime, if individual board members have any questions on the budget, feel free to reach out to us. What we're trying to do is to put as much information as we can and make it available to the public on our website. So if we get questions from the board, those questions might inform our decisions on what information to put out to the public. So we are inviting your questions as well. And thank you, Mary Jo, for reaching out earlier today with some of your questions.
Thank you.
Been a while on the phone.
Well, that's what we're here for, right?
Right.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kamalo. Liaison reports, board invites. Do we have any liaison reports?
Well, we can discuss the center school reuse
Yeah.
RFI. Or
Yeah, the town manager report.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. I included in your packet an update on center school. You will recall that last year, I think it was in October, the chair of the Permanent Building Committee, Dan McIntyre, provided an update to the board on the committee's review of the feasibility of the reuse proposals for center school. That update included the PPC's plan to issue a request for interest to provide an opportunity for interested private developers with demonstrated experience in property development through public-private partnerships to state their interest in the reuse of center school project. I included in your packet the RFI that went out. In fact, yesterday, there was an informational meeting to allow interested parties to ask any questions that they may have ahead of developing their responses to the RFI. There were approximately a dozen developers who participated in that conversation. And in fact, I think local developers from Hopkinton, who I have seen many times coming into town hall, were very well represented. We are looking forward to receiving the responses from interested private developers. We also, as part of yesterday's discussions with the developers, agreed to extend the deadline by which they will be responding. We had overlooked the fact that we have the school vacation week. And so I think we are adding a couple of weeks to the deadline that was issued, and we'll be advertising that extension widely. And so again, the intention here is that to let the community know that the Permanent Building Committee is moving forward, as was recommended back in October, with an RFI process to getting some ideas and concepts from private developers. Depending on the response, the PBC will then decide to issue a request for proposal, a much more detailed process with very specific requirements based on procurement laws.
So basically so we will have competing projects to look at.
Hopefully.
Eating bids.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. And Mr. Chair, if I may too, I spoke also with the chair of the Permanent Building Committee a couple of days back. He is very interested in getting this conversation to the public using different forums and channels. And we will be putting together a plan for that so that at least now we continue to put together a very robust public participation process for the center school reuse discussions.
Okay. And that's still in development stage, how we're gonna do that, right?
Correct.
Okay. Great. So once we have an idea, I think that would be helpful to kind of share, so the public can have an opportunity to know how to do it, how to participate, and be involved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you anything else for the town manager report?
I'm all set. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
I had a couple questions and comments on that.
Please.
Already. Yep. So I skimmed through it, and let's see. I was noticing that there's a lot of needs addressed both by the former Center School Committee and the RFI about that the town has needs for space for Parks and Rec, Youth and Family Services, Land Use Department. But the people reviewing the proposals would just be the PBC, Town Facilities Department, and Town Manager. And that's kind of like I guess homogeneous sort of group as we saw when we looked at the makeup of the town board and committees. So I just thought it might be beneficial to have reps from Parks and Rec or Youth Services on the board too, just to get a wider group of people reviewing the RFIs and getting their reactions, as well as perhaps the school department, because I think a lot of these proposals will be residential. And, in the past, we've underestimated how many children are going to come from residential developments. So I just really want to make sure we're all watching that and get a wider group's reaction to the RFIs. And then I was really surprised to read that that the town was open to hearing from developers about the merits of complete replacement of all three buildings, which I don't know that the Historic District Commission or the Historical Commission has heard about that yet. So that just surprised me. I just want to make sure we are getting the word out to everybody.
Yeah, again, points well taken. You may recall there was a very deliberate process behind forming the Permanent Building Committee as a semi-professional entity in town to look at these issues. And if there are opportunities for other entities to participate in the process, there are avenues for that. However, this is an issue that I'll need to raise with the Permanent Building Committee.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Mary Jo, do you have anything? No.
Well, not really. Norman and I had a discussion on this earlier today. When I called about budget things, I had questions. So my questions have been answered so far.
Excellent. All right. So then we'll move on to the next item, which would be liaison reports. Do anybody have anything?
I don't know.
No.
I had a couple things. I noticed we were invited and we got a follow-up email about Hopkinton 101, which hasn't happened, I don't think, in a couple of years. I don't know if we usually participate in that or not, but I'd be happy to coordinate that. It's an event on the common where each committee might have a table and you might meet the residents.
Oh, yeah, we have done that. Yeah.
So if I think that would be a good idea to participate if we can. I think it's in this later in the spring.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I can clarify through you. Yes, there is a seat for the select board, and we are certainly looking forward to having a board member sit alongside us when we interact with the public on that day.
That sounds good. And then I wanted to note for everybody that the town has put out a website survey, and so everyone really should try to take that survey because it really helps the town to see specifically what people want to see different or what they're having trouble finding. Because, you know, when you look at a website every day, you can find everything you need, but they need to know what other people are looking for.
Absolutely.
Please take the survey.
Thank you for that. Future board agenda items. Anyone? No? Then Amy, I'll leave it to you.
All right, I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Motion been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call. Amy Ritterbush,
Amy Roderbush, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere,
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
and Irfan Nasrullah is a yes as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good night.